All right, today I'm trying to fix this ice maker. This is an Opal Ice Maker. I think GE makes it now, but originally it's made by, I don't know, IB, first build. Don't know what that means. This thing has a tray that goes in there. It looks like this. And you pour water into here. And this thing has an entire refrigeration circuit in it. Move this tools out of the way. And compressor and everything here. There's obviously a cover on this normally. And these are for draining the whole system. They're just tucked here out of the way right now. There shouldn't be any water in this thing. Hasn't been used in ages. There's a UV, I guess, I would not kind of call it a filter. It's a UV disinfectant, I guess, for the water, because obviously this thing has standing water in there. And it would be bad if it accumulates any kind of bacteria or whatnot. This thing in here is, well, there's insulation, and inside there is where the ice is actually made. There's an auger situation, so I think it goes around in a spiral, and then it turns ever so slowly. And it comes up through this chute, so to speak. So it comes out the top here, and then it dispenses down here into the bucket. And this makes like little pellet ice, which is kind of cool because it's small, and some people really like that. Not really my thing, but anyways, there you go. Of course, this thing has a Bluetooth. Yeah, the top cover has an antenna on it. I'm assuming these are some temperature sensors, and they're just sort of stuck down with tape. The whole thing, I guess, being the first build, so I guess the early iteration, it seems a little, how you doing, as Dave Jones says. Anyways, what's wrong with this is not the refrigeration circuit, luckily, because that wouldn't be something I could fix. It has to do with when this thing makes ice, it makes this horrible squealing noise, sort of a, it doesn't sound happy. It still makes ice, though, so it's not like it's broken. But it doesn't seem like that is a good thing. Well, it turns out, after doing a little bit of reading, is that inside here is an auger, well, under the cover, like I said, and there's a bushing. Here's a replacement. And it wears out, and then the auger, as it spins, it kind of flops around in there, and it rubs on the side of the metal refrigeration canister, I guess it's called. I don't know the right terms. And it self-destructs, because it's metal on metal contact, and it's never supposed to actually touch the edges. That would be just the ice that's doing that normally. And yep, it destroys the whole machine. And this thing was apparently very, very expensive. And this was a replacement bushing, I guess made out of some kind of very slippery plastic or whatnot. And it says, do not remove the grease, because I guess that's part of the whole system. And in case you're wondering about the location or where I got this from, I'll put a link down below. But it was $20 before shipping, so $27 here in the US. Opal Ice Maker bushing to fix screeching, grinding, and black sludge. I don't think there ever was black sludge on this, but I think that's the actual metal material that's scraping off the auger, and it comes out on the ice. So you like metal with your ice? Get a GE Opal machine, I guess. Well, one that has this fault. As far as I'm aware, GE does not sell this bushing, so there's no way to fix it unless you can like make the bushing yourself. But luckily, this seller here has them, and I guess I didn't open this yet, so I don't know which auger is in here. It says this is for the 9-hole extruder. Anyhow, a bunch of photos to the seller, which I think was a Tindy store, gave us the info we needed to get the right info. So now I need to take this thing apart, and you got to get this cover off. And to do that, you got to take all this stuff off. So I obviously just took the covers off here to sort of poke around. And you can see there's a bunch of buildup around here from water, you know, because obviously, I guess the refrigeration circuit, there's hard water that accumulates or something. So anyways, I'll try to clean that up a little bit, get this apart, and we'll take a look at what this looks like when I get it all open. Okay, so I have this chute cover thing removed. And now we can see the top of the auger here. And I guess these are the 9 holes. So I assume ice comes out of there. I'm not 100% sure what to do next, but I'm just going to keep taking things off. So there's some screws that hold this black part on here. And I think that's why I have to remove this cover, or this entire like UV filter tank thing. It looks like there's a little UV light or something in there. And this has a level sensor. lift this up here. This came off pretty easily. It looks like it needs some cleaning there. There was a bunch of hard water stains. We can see all the buildup around here. So, yep, lots of cleaning will be needed. I think some vinegar, which I have sitting right here, white vinegar. It should help clean this up a little bit. So I'm going to keep going. But the UV filter thing here is sort of sitting on top of this black plastic here. So that's why I think I need to remove this in order to get that out. All right, so not a great design here. So I have this UV tank moved away. I'm trying to remove this black part here to get to the bottom of this auger assembly. And down inside these holes here are screws. And you could just see the tip of my screwdriver. What a disaster that is there. Because I took one of the screws out, and these are like machine screws, and it's a rusty mess. And there's one in each of these holes, so there's 4. And you have to try to get those out. And I'm sorry you can't really see very well down in there, but there's a screw down there apparently, and I have to try to get those out somehow. And if that head strips off, this one came out okay. That one is a rusty mess. I don't know about these two. I may have to drill them out. What a disaster. What a terrible design. Why aren't those stainless steel? They're obviously exposed to moisture. Probably from the chilling of the auger thing, whatever. Condensation. So bad design. Bad freaking design. So I think I'm making progress. The trick I used was there was so much rust built up on top of the screw head that I used compressed air and a vacuum cleaner to clean out those 2 holes first. And this screw right here that I have the screwdriver on is turning okay. You got to make sure you push down hard. You don't want to strip the heads. I think you could probably put some penetrating oil if you feel that that might help. I am skeptical whether that actually helps at all. But definitely cleaning up the screw head so I could get a good grip with the Phillips helped a lot. Because every time I put this down there, it would pick up a ton of this stuff that was built up on top of the screw head. And that's one of the other screws I took out. I mean, it's just, let's zoom up on that a little bit. I mean, is that a screw? Yeah. It's terrible. Absolutely terrible. The design of this is, let's hope that newer versions of this are better. That just seems like a ridiculous oversight, though, on whoever designed this originally. Success, though. Got those 4 screws out, and I was able to lift that up. Hopefully we're getting closer to getting to where that bushing is. None of the screws broke. I'm going to have to go see if I can find some new fasteners that are better than that junk here, so I can not put those rusty things back in, because those will never come out again if this ever needs service in the future. And once I had that black chute thing off, I took the styrofoam off and then exposed 4 bolts that hold this thing together. And guess what? They're all rusty as well. They look like they're chrome plated, but that was about it. So that's pretty junk. So this one's really stuck in there. It's coming out though. It's just really stuck with all the rust. Just terrible. With those bolts removed, I was able to get the cap off here, and it was pretty stuck due to the corrosion. Look at this here. So I had to use a dead blow and this here just to kind of gently pry it apart. I figure that this surface here, if it's not sealed well, maybe water leaks out, I'm not too sure. But here's the bushing. We can see that it's completely worn out. So that would allow the auger here, which is what turns, to move around so freely. Pretty terrible. So I guess it just wears out from time. It's just plastic. So it's obviously a wear item. But that's making that noise there when it spins. And hopefully that new bushing, when it goes on there, sitting right here, it's got some grease on there, then we'll prevent that from happening. So what I need to do is get some Scotch-Brite, try to clean this up a little bit, because it's kind of crusty, doesn't it? Yeah. So I'm cleaning this up, and I think one of the issues is See all this buildup here from hard water or whatever? I think that's what wears the bushing. So I'm using the Scotch-Brite here just to clean this away. I want it to be shiny metal again. And that way it won't just keep eating away at the new bushing that we install in here. And I think the trick is to use distilled water in this thing, or at least soft water, something that won't cause this much buildup. Or maybe you have to run the cleaning process, which I think tries to get rid of the descaling or descale this. I don't really know. But obviously, this is really rough here where that hard water is, and that's what ate the original bushing. Well, it's a lot cleaner, but it's not perfect, but it's not really, I don't know, diminishing returns. It's very smooth at this point, so I don't think there'll be an issue. So here's the new bushing. See how that fits on there. It's a pretty tight fit. That's good. I also cleaned up the other side here. Let's just put this on here. Loosely, that is. And goes on fine. So hopefully that does the trick. So we're at the reassembly stage, and I started to use a brass bristle brush thing here on the Dremel to try to clean up the bolts and the screws. Well, I started with the bolts. It's not really feasible. I actually was making good progress on the bolts, but the problem is the threads are kind of messed up just from all the rust, and I hadn't even started on the screws yet. I think it's a lost cause. These seem like metric screws and, well, bolts. So I'm going to go to the hardware store and try to find some stainless steel equivalents in a similar size. Hope I can find them. And I will use some of this silicone grease when I reassemble it, just to try to keep it from rusting again. And the silicone will help, or sorry, the stainless steel will help. Plus, I think the silicone will as well. But this is it. We're kind of at the reassembly stage. And looking at this, the bushing is sitting there. I put a couple bolts in. I took them out now, so I can't really test. But I gave a poke to the auger inside there. It doesn't move around anymore. So I think this is absolutely a good fix. And really cleaning off that shaft where the bushing goes will hopefully keep this thing operating for a long period of time. And obviously, it's a good amount of cleaning that needs to happen in here. There's a lot of hard water stains everywhere. But that's totally doable. And now, unfortunately, it is too late. It's, well, Sunday night. I can't go to the hardware store to get those bolts. And I looked in stock, what I have in stock, and I do not have anything that will work for this. I have stuff actually that fits in here, threads that will go in there. But they're not stainless steel, and they're too long, and they're screws. They're not bolts. So anyways, yes, off to the hardware store. And at the hardware store, to pick up some stainless steel fasteners. The ones we need, 6mm by 16 bolts. And the screws are in here. I think it was this right here, 4mm times 10. Those are the screws, and these are hex. So hopefully that's easier to remove in the future. So it shouldn't have any problems now. And if they had just spent, what, $5, well, that's my price on parts, or just, cents, then this wouldn't have been an issue. Back at home, these are the new fasteners. And the only real difference is that the smaller of the fasteners uses, I think, a hex head instead of a Phillips, which is actually kind of good because I think this will give a little bit more bite if these ever corrode in the future. But these are stainless steel now, so that shouldn't be a problem. This may be the wrong thing to do, but I'm going to add a little bit of silicone lubricant to all of these when they go back in. Obviously, the threads are a little messed up or probably a little bit rusty on the device here. Even though this is all generally, well, it looks like it's stainless steel of some kind. I tried to clean this stuff out as best as possible, but obviously it's a little bit of a mess inside. So yeah, I'm going to put a little bit of that lubricant there. This stuff is designed to go on faucets and things like that around water. And obviously this gets cold and forms a lot of condensation. So that may or may not help. Might be the wrong thing to do. Perhaps I can't get the right torque value on here or whatever, but I'm going to do it. If I have to go back and fix it later, I can do that. Reassembly of this thing is basically just the reverse of the disassembly. So there's not much to it. I don't think I'll need to film very much of it in case unless I run into some issues. From a thread perspective, these two bolts were definitely a little more screwed up inside the body here. They went in fine, and I'm just using a small little ratchet, and I didn't apply much torque to it to get those in. These front ones went in pretty much with just hand tightening. And then I'll just button these up, basically crisscross pattern, just to make sure this is on nice and evenly. And then, yeah, put the rest of this thing together with the screws into the other holes and all that kind of stuff. Right, this thing is back together enough for me to test. Everything went back together without any issues, although one of the screws, these are the ones I replaced that hold down the black chute thing, the threads over on this one over here were completely messed up. And I didn't want to just like force it and cross thread it. So I screwed it in a little bit and just left it. It's no big deal. There are 4 that hold down the chute, and there's the one over here that's not good. I don't think that's going to cause any issue. Luckily, the bolts that hold down the auger cap, those were totally fine. The ones in the back were a little hard, but I just had to work through the bad threads, and they're all torqued down all the way. I did give this thing a full clean inside, toothbrush and cloth and stuff. Then I rinsed it out, and you can use the drain hose in the back to drain that. And then I cleaned up inside here a little bit. Also rinsed it out, drained it out of the back. This thing I think is ready for testing now. So I'm gonna fill it up with some filtered water, and I'm gonna plug it in and let it make some ice. And of course, it goes without saying, I would just make a bin of ice, throw it away. Don't use any of that beginning ice because it's gonna have the junk and stuff that obviously got dislodged when I took it apart. And then we'll see if this thing works and doesn't make any sound. All right, it's powered up. The good thing is, I vaguely recall when the first time I powered this thing up is on initial power up, you heard this screeching noise coming from the auger with that bad bushing. And I don't think it's doing that now. It seems to be kind of pumping the water from the lower holding tank here, and it pumps it up into this upper tank, which has a level sensor and a UV, whatever, LED emitter. I think right now the auger is spinning because it's in its like initialization state, although I'm not 100% sure. There's certainly a lot of hard water buildup in here, and oh, it's about to run out of water down there. So I better add some more, but so far, so good. No noise. Okay, well that was a huge fail. This thing is leaking everywhere. I think it's running now. Something just beeped in my kitchen. That was weird, behind me. I think what the issue was is the 2 drain hoses have a little cap part, and I didn't have that on, and they were just sort of tucked up in the back of the machine, but I think they're not high enough. So it started pumping water up into the top here and basically just started draining out of the drain hoses. So my bad, but I've never actually had this machine work or do anything, so I have no idea how it works. But I put the cap back on because I looked for leaks. I took the cover off. I didn't see any hoses disconnected or anything like that, so it had to have been that. And sure enough, it seems to be running, and there's no more water coming out. I had to clean up that big mess. The compressor is definitely running right now because I can feel the refrigerant hoses or tubes are cold. And I think it's going. And definitely there's been no bad noises out of the auger. And I'm positive it's spinning right now as it chills. I think it slows down. I think it initially does a quick turn and then it slows down. I don't exactly know. But either way, it's made no sounds. The gear set, there's a shaded pole fan. It's kind of below this thing. And that seems to turn the transmission. It turns the auger. And the gears are a little noisy. You just hear them meshing. But to be honest, that's probably normal. And once the cover's on, I think all you'll really hear is the cooling fan. This is the main fan for the evaporator, right? Is that what it's called? Yeah, it's like what would be outside on your air conditioner. So this is for the refrigeration circuit. And the fan that's over here is cooling like a heat sink underneath this, but I think it also turns the whole transmission for the auger. Anyhow, no sound. And I anticipate, I just put tap water. I had filtered water in there, but after it all dumped out, I just poured tap water in it for now. I just want to see if it makes some ice. Then the best thing to do would be to drain it all out and then put filtered water in it, or ideally distilled water, because you could see all the hard water stains that have built up on this thing just from use from its previous owner. Okay, I'll report back when I actually have some actual ice. All right, got some ice coming out of this thing, and it's been making no strange noises, just the gears turning and the fans whirring and the compressor going. But there it is, some ice. And you can kind of hear, when the top's off at least, as the auger slowly spins, you hear like creaky noises and stuff. It's not like old boards, but you can hear the ice kind of cracking off of it as it spins, and I think it pushes it through those holes that were in the top. We saw those 9 holes there, and then the ice just sort of slowly comes down the chute here. I think it kind of builds up in here and then falls off like a coin pusher down into the lower area. So that's cool. So it's working and not making any sounds. So this video was a success. I guess lessons learned. Replace the hardware with stainless steel. Should have been done from the factory. And don't try to run this thing with those hoses uncapped, because water will pour all over your kitchen, which is super annoying. But yeah, it works. There's some ice. Sweet. And I don't know if there's an app. I think I'm sure there is, if there's a Bluetooth whatever modem or something on this thing, so you can check the status. And I'm assuming this thing can tell when it's out of water and when the ice bucket is full. I don't know. Not that I've read the manual or anything. But there we go. I'm going to say that this thing is fixed. And if it's not for some reason, I will edit this video and add a little ending. But I don't think that's the case. It was never reported not to work by the previous owner. It was just reported that it made horrible sounds. So all I gotta do now is put all the exterior covers back on. And there we go. Pellet ice. No more noise. Thumbs up.